Call of Duty,
What the Sigma
and
is he
dozens
talking
and
about?
dozens more. Created in collaboration with Amazon Studios and the publishers and developers of some of the world's greatest games.
Okay, but
I'm talking
where's Sonic
new
the Hedgehog?
titles.
They can't just come in and announce
sorry.
not Sonic the Hedgehog. That's
I
messed
cry a
up.
lot.
I can't believe this. I've been so betrayed. They better come out with Sonic the Hedgehog 3 right after this. Like, they can't do this. They can't just... I'm just refreshing. Come on. Come on. Come on. Come on. Come on. Hit me. Hit me. Whoa, 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 whoa. London?
It hasn't always been easy.
Is this Spider-Man?
In here.
Yeah, in my lungs.
In his lungs. Wait, this looks awesome.
Project Shadow is far beyond anything we've ever encountered.
Why is he wet? Maria. Oh my god, this is like the Avengers. Wait, that was real? I thought that was fake. That was an actual leak. Wait, he joined Gun? That's cool. Whoa. This is getting a little gay, Shinder. Live and learn!
What did you do?
They were Chow.
Saggy flesh.
Bruh. Gerald is alive? He's alive? Chow, Freddy Chow's, Chow Fazbear's Pizza, Chow's Fazbear Pizzeria. Holy guacamole, it really is the year of Shadow. First they turned him into a squid, and now they turned him into Keanu Reeves. In classic TrueBlueSonicFan fashion, I probably watched this, you guys don't know this, I probably watched this trailer like over 30 times. I mean, I got a 40-minute video talking about how Sonic Adventure 2 actually has no plot holes. I'm gonna have to analyze Sonic Movie 3, and while the movie hasn't come out yet, I'll have to make do with the trailer. Alright, so let's start getting into some theories, some speculations. I have some speculations, some theories, some observations that some people have already made, and I've got some observations that no one has made. So the trailer starts off in London, and I've seen a lot of people say like that's where the movie starts. Sonic and friends are traveling around the world, they're having fun, but I don't think that's the case here. I think this is actually later in the movie, because later in the trailer you actually see the semi-sphere thing rising from the Thames. Another cool detail I noticed is that they added a gun building to London right next to the London Bridge, and the semi-sphere thing is speculated to be the Space Colony arc. Now it is pretty small compared to the original Space Colony arc because it literally fits into the Thames. Now we know that Shadow's plan is to wipe out all of humanity because in the trailer he says that there will be no one left, but I'm not really sure how Shadow's going to do that with a Space Colony arc that small, since the meteor or asteroid that wiped out the dinosaurs is like 5 times the size of the movie arc. Now it's possible that they just forgot to do scientific research, but maybe they'll incorporate some other methods into how Shadow ends humanity, who knows. Now we have a scene here where Olive Garden guy is telling someone that they need Team Sonic. This scene seems to be taking place in the Chow Garden restaurant in Japan, but then later in the trailer we do see Sonic, Tails, and Knuckles talking to Olive Garden guy in the Chow Garden restaurant, so he's obviously not saying we need Team Sonic to Sonic himself. That would make no sense. So I'm assuming at the beginning he's talking to another agent saying they need Team Sonic at the Chow Garden restaurant, and then he comes back later with Sonic, Tails, and Knuckles. They'll probably make an Olive Garden, Chow Garden joke, and it's actually kind of funny how this Olive Garden product placement has evolved into a Chow Garden joke. That's actually pretty epic. Sonic is literally breaking boundaries by turning product placement into a reference. But now let's get into some important Shadow lore details. So in the trailer, Olive Garden guy says that they encountered Project Shadow, and Sonic even calls Shadow an alien at some point, which makes zero sense in the game lore because Shadow was created by humans, so by definition he can't be an alien. That being said, they could be taking elements from Shadow the Hedgehog, where it was revealed that Gerald took alien DNA to create Shadow. And that's probably why Shadow looks like Sonic in the movie universe, is because they took some Hedgehog's DNA. But Olive Garden guy also says that they encountered Project Shadow. Now that could mean two things. Either they are going with Shadow is a guy, he's an alien who came down to Earth, or they encountered Project Shadow because they encountered his case files, so they found his location. Although you wouldn't really say you encountered someone because you received their mail, so now you know their name and address. Like, that's not how you use the word encountered. So my theory right now is that Gunn is actually lying to Sonic and calling Shadow an alien, saying that they encountered Project Shadow, and that Shadow has been sealed away for the safety of humanity, but then he escaped. But then once Sonic starts working with Eggman, and then by extension maybe gets to talk to Gerald Robotnik, he'll figure figure out who Shadow truly is, which is not an alien but a government experiment. In the Knuckles show they also did call Shadow an alien, but that also kind of makes sense because it seems like when Shadow was sent down in his escape pod, he landed into the bowling alley, and that obviously seems like an alien landed on Earth. But again, that could also mean that they're leaning into Shadow is an alien backstory. Shadow could have actually came from his planet and then landed on Earth. Now I say this because it seems like Maria's death actually takes place on Earth. There's a shot in the trailer where it seems like Shadow and Gerald are mourning a body, and that's obviously Maria. And you can see like toppled over vehicles, so it seems like Maria's death happened on Earth. Now in the games, we didn't really see any vehicles on the Ark, but at the same time, you know, in this new Sonic Cinematic Universe, they could be adding vehicles to the Ark. They could be going, hey, we used vehicles to get around this really big Ark. But assuming the semi-sphere thing from earlier is the Ark, that doesn't make too much sense because the Ark is significantly smaller now. And honestly guys, I'm having a lot of fun looking at this trailer because there's so much I can theorize and speculate about compared to the Sonic 2 trailer, where Sonic 2 seemed like there was a straightforward story. They discover where the Master Emerald is and it's just a chase to get it. And then we know that Eggman is going to get the Emerald and then create the Death Egg robot, and then they're going to have to fight together. But because Sonic Adventure 2 is so lore heavy and they're making so many changes, there's a lot to speculate about, there's a lot to wonder like which direction are they going with the story? Are these changes for the better? Are they for the worst? And why is Tails so cute with his big aviation helmet on? I also do find it ironic how Sonic is a game series from Japan, but he's never gone to Japan in the Japanese games. He's gone to Press Garden and Mania, but that was an American game, and now he's going straight to Japan in this movie. The closest thing Sonic Team has done is Aquarium Park, but that's obviously not Japan. That's an alien planet that Eggman made to look like Japan. And we're not counting All-Stars Racing because those Japanese settings are from other games. You also see that Tom gets the opportunity to become a gun agent, so I hope we see some action scenes from him. According to Pat Casey, one of the Sonic movie writers, it seems like Paramount had very little faith in the original movie, and he believes that was the reason why he was put onto the movie, because he's not a big name in Hollywood. But fortunately, Jeff Fowler is an actual Sonic fan, and with how Pat Casey talks about the series, he does have real respect for the franchise, it seems. One thing Paramount wanted to do was have Sonic partner up with a child, and the team thought that was silly, so to meet in the middle, they aged down Sonic, but then partnered him up with Tom the Cop. And now look at the effects of that. Tom the Cop can now join Gun, which is a cool thing. If they just folded to Paramount's ideas, we would probably end up with a terrible child actor, and we would have a child getting caught in this military alien conflict. But no, instead we see a policeman, who makes sense to team up with Sonic because they're both fighting crime. So it makes sense that he gets involved in these conflicts, and then now we get to see him promoted into a military agent. Now Sonic gives Eggman his quill in the trailer, and a lot of people say that this is like where Metal Sonic comes in. Now that Eggman has Sonic's quill, he can create Metal Sonic. But the thing is, Eggman has always had Sonic's quill. Maybe after the events of Sonic 1, the quill is not as powerful. But also, Gun has been able to acquire like Knuckles' quills, so I don't think it should be that difficult to acquire Sonic's without having to ask him directly. But who knows, Eggman is probably like depressed and he couldn't bother. That also being said, in the CinemaCon footage that we didn't get to see, Agent Stone says that they located someone. Now we're assuming that's Sonic because Agent Stone is holding Sonic's quill when he says that. So I feel like Eggman is still trying to fight Sonic from the shadows, which is why Sonic knows that Eggman is alive. Because at the end of Sonic 2, they never figure out if Eggman survived. I think Sonic's intent was to kill Eggman, but they never find his body. So he could either be dead or alive, we don't know. But the way Sonic says they need help from you-know-who, it seems like he knows for sure Eggman is alive. So based on the CinemaCon trailer, it does seem like Eggman is working from the shadows while being depressed and overeating. So now later in the trailer, it seems like Sonic and Eggman arrive at this like abandoned location in the mountains. Early on in the trailer, you see Sonic holding a flashlight investigating this abandoned building, and Eggman's also in this abandoned building when he meets Gerald. It might have been like a research facility used by Gerald Robotnik, and Eggman knows about it, so they've gone to investigate it to learn more about Shadow before they end up finding out that Gerald is still alive. Now I'm actually very excited to see Gerald still alive. It's a very smart move if they take it in the direction I think they're taking it in. Now if you played Sonic Adventure 2, you know that Gerald is technically the big bad. He's the guy who wants to end all life on the planet, and he brainwashes Shadow to do his bidding, and yeah, that's his goal. Eggman in the games looked up to his grandfather. He aspired to be like him. So when he figures out that his grandfather was willing to destroy all of humanity while knowing that he still had family left on the planet, that obviously upset him, as you can see during the the credits. And Eggman doesn't want to kill all of humanity, he just wants to rule the world because he thinks the world would be better under his leadership. But the problem is, Sonic Adventure 2 isn't about that. We don't get to see Eggman's relationship with Gerald. We don't see him aspire to be like Gerald. Because the way the story is written, it's about what's happening now. It's about Sonic and Shadow clashing, and then you've got all this lore detail in the background. But it's not communicated in a way where you can truly get attached. Which is fine. It's a video game, so I think they can get a little experimental with storytelling, since the hook of the game is to play it, while the story is just to justify the character's actions. It's just to give Sonic a reason to run. But obviously, with a movie, the crux of the movie is the actual story. So now, you can't just have a sad story for Eggman and have it in the background as a little extra detail if you want to look into the lore. It actually needs to be the crux of the story. And they didn't have to keep Gerald alive to do this, but it was a better choice for the flow of the movie, because to build Eggman's relationship with Gerald, you would have to have a bunch of flashbacks, which would ruin the flow of the story. And on top of that, we're probably going to get a bunch of flashbacks for Shadow and Maria. And we don't want the story overblown by flashbacks, so what do? We keep Gerald alive so that Eggman and Gerald's relationship can be built up while keeping the story moving. Then once their relationship has been built up, Gerald is going to reveal that he wants to end all life on Earth. And because that relationship has been properly built up, we're going to feel bad for Eggman, and then Eggman will have to fight against his grandfather. And it's going to be even more tragic for Eggman because in the games, his grandfather's already gone. Eggman is just stopping a space colony from hitting the Earth. He doesn't need to fight his grandfather one-on-one. But now Eggman will have to directly confront his grandfather, which is even more heartbreaking. Now I'm sure that Shadow and Gerald will definitely be working together in the movie. In the trailer, Shadow says, "When we are done, there will be no one left," so that means that Shadow is working with someone, and who else would he be working with other than Gerald? But this is just the tip of the iceberg because there were some leaks. Now I'm not going to mention the leaks now, but before I do, I will let you know when to click off the video. Now in the trailer at the end, when Sonic asks Shadow, "What did you do?" and then Shadow responds with, "What I had to," that kind of implies that Shadow believes what he's doing is the right thing. In Sonic Adventure 2, Shadow wasn't ashamed to hide that what he was doing was revenge. He was basically being selfish. He was aware of that. But in the movie, he's doing what he has to. He believes it's the right thing to do, that he has to do it, or no one will. Now, if what he has to do is end all of humanity, I think that really works well with the whole nature versus technology theme of Sonic. And it also builds upon the theme that Shadow and Sonic are mirrors of each other. They're two sides of the same coin. They're both trying to protect Earth. Sonic does this by fighting Eggman, by making sure that Eggman doesn't get his grubby little hands on the planet and absolutely obliterating nature, because that's what Eggman believes needs to be done. But humanity as a whole is contributing to climate change. They're ruining nature, and they're even killing each other, as experienced firsthand by Shadow. Shadow could just believe that humanity is a plague to the planet, and he's willing to kill everyone and everything on the planet to get rid of humans, because if we're assuming that he's going to crash the space colony Ark into Earth, the planet will be wiped of most life forms. There will be some that survive, but then the planet will heal again, and then it will develop new species, hopefully nothing as bad as humanity. So Sonic protects nature, but doesn't go too far by killing all of humans. Shadow is doing essentially the same thing, protecting nature, but he's going so far that he's willing to hurt nature and the humans, and that actually works with what Iizuka says what Shadow is. Shadow is said to be an anti-hero. He does what he believes is the right thing, but he's not afraid to do whatever it takes to achieve that goal. Now, if you don't like leaks, remember to like and subscribe and click off the video, but yeah, I'll give you 5 seconds. 5, a 4, a 3, a 2, 1. So one guy leaked some storyboards for the end of Knuckles and for the end of Sonic 3 the movie, and the Knuckles one came true, so the Sonic 3 one is probably true as well. What happens in the Sonic 3 one is that there's some multiverse time travel shenanigans going on when Shadow uses Chaos Control, and this seems to be happening on the Ark in space. Another thing to mention is that this may not be the Ark, but just a generic space station, because the storyboard is literally just called Space Station Time Travel. And because the semi-sphere in the trailer is not as big as the space colony Ark, it's not too crazy to assume that in the Sonic Cinematic Universe they got rid of the whole idea of it being a space colony, and it's just stripped down to a research facility that can go into space. Now, we don't really get a clear idea of what's actually happening here. This could be Chaos Control to stop the Ark from hitting Earth, and they could just be teasing the Chaos Emerald's abilities to time travel and hop universes because they might want to do something like that in a future movie. Considering they introduced Iblis and set up a quasi Flames of Disaster in the Knuckles show, so they might want to do a Sonic 06 adaptation in the future, so they could be teasing the time travel powers of the Chaos Emeralds in this movie to pay off in a later movie. Now, there was an account on Twitter posting a bunch of Sonic 3 leaks, and we never really knew if his leaks were true because Paramount wasn't marketing the movie until now. He did predict that Jim Carrey would come back as Eggman, but that's a very easy thing to predict. He says there are more action scenes than the first two movies, but again, that's very easy to predict based on the story this movie has been adapting, and based on how the people working on the movies say that they want Sonic to be an Avengers level franchise. He says there are deaths plural, and we can't verify that. We obviously know that Maria is for sure going to die, but we don't know if any other characters are gonna die. But I hope when Shadow realizes that Gerald has been manipulating him, Shadow shoots Gerald. Time travel is another thing he predicted, but the storyboards leaked before he said this, so he could have just looked at those. Live and Learn is in the movie, but again, that's not surprising because we know that the license has been bought by Paramount to use it in the movie. He says that Shadow's iconic bike is in the movie, which again has been revealed publicly during the CinemaCon footage, but he specifically details that there is a gun attached to the bike. We don't see that gun in the trailer, but it's possible that Shadow tries using the gun in an earlier scene but then loses it. Apparently 2 key points from the first Sonic movie will be expanded upon. Amy is definitely in the movie, but is probably a post-credit scene, and the third act is something out of an Avengers film. Now, I was pretty skeptical of these leaks when they first came out, but there are 2 specific things that he posted that were actually true, and that's Knuckles versus Shadow being a thing, which could also be an educated guess. But the other thing is that Jim Carrey would be playing 2 roles, and we know that Jim Carrey is playing both Eggman and Gerald in this movie now. And that's not something you just guess, that is a very specific detail, which means that time travel might play a substantial role in the film, and it actually does make sense because maybe Gerald and Shadow's first goal is to use the Chaos Emeralds to save Maria by traveling to the past. But then that begs the question, how does Shadow go from wanting to save Maria with time travel to saying there won't be anything left? The same Twitter account also says that this movie screams how to deal with death, like that's the main theme of the movie, it's about dealing with death, with trauma. And hell yeah, that's something I love about Sonic. It can seem like a kid's franchise from the outside, but then you get into it and then it can surprise you with some mature themes. Even the first Sonic movie was kind of about treasuring your family. It's like Tom the Cop, he wanted to move up in the world, he wanted to be this big time cop saving lives, and then to do that he had to leave all the people he knows behind in his small town and move to San Francisco. But then we have Sonic, who has never had a family, never had friends, and I think it definitely delivered a solid, nuanced take on this kind of issue about having to sacrifice time with family and friends to move up in the world and feel comfortable or feel accomplished. And it's a very adult message as well, in the sense that kids aren't really dealing with these problems yet. This is something that adults are dealing with having to move out, with finding careers and, you know, balancing career and personal life. And then we even have Sonic, who's dealing with like loneliness and isolation, and he's actually like depressed. And it's done in a way where I actually felt empathetic for Sonic. Movies and TV shows don't usually move me emotionally, so the fact that I felt some sort of sympathy for Sonic kind of meant something. Like, I think they're doing something right. So in that way, the first Sonic movie did surprise me. The second one was more about becoming a hero and protecting the people you love, and that felt a little bit too fantasy-like for me. It just seemed like a superhero origin story, and that's why I didn't really connect with it as much. It didn't seem to have like that mature theme I was looking for that surprises me in a Sonic story. It was just a generic, oh, a hero has to protect the people they love. And that being said, I also think the movie wasn't as well written, and I just didn't believe Knuckles and Eggman as characters. Like, there was a vital point in Sonic the Hedgehog 2 when Knuckles calls Eggman his friend, but throughout the entire movie, Knuckles seemed reluctant to be wanting to work with Eggman. So it felt strange that he considered Eggman his friend. And because of that, I was kind of having trouble grasping what the theme of Knuckles' story was. But hearing that Sonic 3 has this very consistent theme that's very apparent when you watch the movie is really good to hear. It gives me a lot of hope for the film. Now, there's this one other leak that this YouTuber mentioned, and everything that he mentioned was in the trailer except for one thing, and that's when Shadow escapes, the first thing Shadow does is look for Maria. And that's interesting because in the trailer we see Shadow mourning Maria's dead body. Now, it's possible maybe she's alive and she's sent to the hospital and she dies in hospital, but before Shadow can figure that out, he's put into cryostasis, which is why he looks for her. Or it could also hint that Gerald is messing with Shadow's memories and remove that part of his memory. And again, this brings up more questions. How does he figure out Maria's dead? And how does he end up working with Gerald later in the movie then? From this trailer and a few leaks, I'm just wondering, how do they get to this point? How do they get to that point? What makes them do this? What makes them do that? I felt none of that in the second Sonic movie's trailer. And I think the second Sonic movie had a very simple plot, and people did say it felt longer than it needed to be. And I'm hoping this third Sonic movie might be 2.5 hours long, and it's justifying this length with all of these plot twists, with all of these plot points. And Sonic Adventure 2 is a very complex story. It involves government conspiracies, and very few questions are answered by the end of the movie. So it's only appropriate that the movie adapting that story is very complex. The people who worked on the film seem very proud of it. They're saying like, you aren't ready guys, or this movie's gonna be crazy. And I've never really seen this type of energy for a film before. To be fair, I don't follow films as closely as I do the Sonic films, so maybe that's why. But it also gives me hope that even if I've seen the leaks, there are still some surprises for me left in the movie. Alright, bye guys.